Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Welcome to Too Much. I am here with the incredible Latashá.
Hi.
Latashá is a producer and creative director pushing the boundaries of hip hop, electronic, and avant garde music. Known for her immersive sonic and visual storytelling, she blends raw energy with innovation, creative healing, and tech exploration, crafting experiences that challenge industry norms. Through her artistry, she redefines independence, authenticity, and creativity, building new worlds where music, visuals, and technology converge. And I'm so pumped to have you because so much of what we're trying to do here at Too Much is redefine categories and push
Mm,
boundaries and have
mm.
conversations about magical thinking and what can this look like. You're already doing that in a lot of ways. And so I'm excited to share more about you with more people.
Thank you, my love. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be chatting with you always. Denise is such a gem in my world, so really happy to just be chatting with you and sharing my journey.
Yeah, so I know you're about to release a bunch of new music,
Yup.
and I want to talk a little bit about what the process of this work has been like for you. I know it's probably different than past works. This one feels, I think, you're excavating a lot. And why don't you take us on the genesis of where this album music stemmed from?
Yeah, so this project has been in the making for, I want to say, about 3 to 4 years. I've been wanting to make an EP since the beginnings of COVID, but COVID was just what COVID was. And then I found myself in the world of tech and Web3 and blockchain technology. And when I got into that world, it allowed me to just think about how I want to offer my music in a different route instead of like going the traditional route or worrying about how, you know, what lane I should be in or anything of that nature. It just allowed me to experiment and play. So through blockchain, I was allowed to just like release a bunch of different things, experiment with my sound, experiment with my art as a whole. I went from music to visual art and back and forth all the time. And it was just a really fun time for me to play and also be supported and, invested in through the collectors and people that showed up for my art in that space. So then made a decent amount of money through blockchain, through selling my art, and that went really well for me. I actually like made what a record deal would have given me through just selling my art via
Okay, but
blockchain.
let's explain that for people that are not familiar with crypto.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
what do you even mean
Yeah.
selling art on the blockchain?
So, blockchain and crypto have apps and platforms that are built on top of the technology. So, for like really easy explanation of blockchain, like if I'm teaching a 5-year-old about blockchain, I like to think of blockchain like an arcade. And you go to the arcade and you play different games and you win rewards from those games that you play. So, it could be tickets, etc. And so I literally kind of would sell, or I would be, you could say my music is like a teddy bear inside of an arcade game machine and
Okay.
you would play the game and then you would win this teddy bear or something like that. So that's like my easy way of explaining it to it. It gets really complicated and all over the place, but on the easy stance, collectors would collect my music or my art or my visuals, et cetera, via blockchain. So there were platforms like Zora and OpenSea and different things like that that I would sell my art on. You had a question?
Well, what was the impetus for even going to that space initially?
Well, I've been an independent artist pretty much my whole career and dabbled in a lot of different realms like writing music for other artists and then writing music for TV and commercial and etc. I've done it almost every single way of releasing music, except running a label. Like I have not gone the label route because my spirit
Yet.
just
Yet.
yet, but we don't know. We'll see what the universe has to offer. I haven't gone the label route just because it just feels not in tune with my system at the moment. I feel like when I sign a deal, it's gonna be when I'm at the point where I don't care. Like somebody else can run this thing.
But also, I mean, I don't know if you're following James Blake's journey as an independent artist. And for those of you that aren't following, James Blake has been incredibly vocal about how labels aren't actually the best engines for artists anymore,
Yeah, exactly.
especially in terms of like transparency and financial recoupment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been very transparent about all these other platforms he's been utilizing to market. And for example, I think he just put out a single and even pre-release had recouped, which in the label world, like, you usually don't recoup that quickly,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
ever. My point being is that, like, I think new models are being born as
Right.
we sit here right now, and we don't know what the future of music looks like. But it's very clear that being an independent artist, as long as you have a groundswell of a following, is a very sustainable artistic path.
Yeah, I'll say if you have the groundswell and the following, absolutely. James Blake was in a really lucky position because he already had signed to a deal before. He built his following through that deal and really had a platform to kind of do this next step into independence for himself. For myself and many other artists, we're like fully independent and building from the ground up, right? So
Yeah.
I literally am shaking hands and kissing babies and making fans in that way all the time. You know what I mean? And I'm really happy that I've been able to build such a great fan base that do want to collect my art and do want to collect my music and buy and purchase and be a part of this journey with me. But it's a very different journey I witness now, watching like artists that already signed go independent to fully most of
Right.
the journey independent artists. So yeah, so got into blockchain because I was like, oh, this might be a way for us to continue that path of independence and utilize technology to take the music to the next level and work with community to build out my own creative ecosystem.
And it worked.
And it worked. And it worked. It worked. I mean, some days I'm like, did it work? But it worked.
It worked in terms of like making money,
Yeah.
building community. And of course, I think we all sit here and are like, are we where we want to be? Is that,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
benchmark always moves.
Of course.
But I think you certainly got to a place where one of the gifts of like making enough money, it gives us a little time to have some dream space and to sort of figure out what's next. When we're struggling to pay our bills and we're struggling to be a creative, like, you can't be a creative under pressure. It's like, how do I actually have the breath to really figure out like what is the next step, next step?
I think dream space is really the greatest term for it. Yeah, blockchain definitely gave me a lot of dream space. And then along with that, the community that I grew through blockchain still continues to support me till now.
It's amazing.
I have an executive producer now who I met through the work that I was releasing. He actually was a collector to my art, and now he's an executive producer to the next projects that I'm releasing. And it has, connections with blockchain, but not really. He just wants to be a part of the journey. So he's investing in a lot of the things that I create right now. He's investing in the team building that I'm doing right now for my own company. So it's been really incredible to continue to see how the effects of working in this world has continued to support me.
And so after were in this dream space for a while, sort of like cooking up what was next, what were the seeds that were coming up for you that gave you the clear vision of what you wanted to make next?
I firstly really wanted to involve more collaborators in my art. A lot of my music started just with me writing flow of consciousness and not really having anybody else a part of it except for a producer maybe. But this time I kind of reversed the roles. I was like, all right, I think I want to produce and I want to bring in more writers and people to help me express differently than I ever have. In my past, a lot of my music comes from like activism or it came from like I don't even know, like maybe even some trauma work that I was working through in my music, et cetera, et cetera. And this project, I wanted to express differently. I just wanted to tell my story in a different way, be a little bit more open and wild and free. And I knew that I wasn't going to do it by myself. So I was like, I got to get some more writers with me. And so I brought in a bunch of writers that I met through the Web3 space, including our homie, Young Spielberg, and a bunch of other peeps that got involved in the writing process with me, which was terrifying, to be real.
How did you feel safe? I mean, I've done a couple. I've taken voice lessons for like a year because I dream of being a singer one day, and it's
beautiful.
I mean, it's probably never happening, but
Don't
I am
say
ready.
that.
I'm ready for the one day when someone needs a really good VMA style opening number, and I'm prepped. That's what I'm prepping
let's
for.
Go.
I don't know when it's coming.
It's coming.
No clue.
What's
but I'm
coming?
prepping. Certainly prepping for that moment. But I was taking voice lessons, and then I got into like a little bit of a street session where I was like, I'm a DJ. Maybe I'll make maybe I'll just make some music. Like I can sing some tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And the vulnerability it takes to just go and play in front of people or strangers, it was very daunting for me. And I'm not very shy or sort of scared, but I was like, oh, this feels so overwhelming. And maybe just because it was so new to me. But how did you feel safe in front of people, especially when you've been largely doing your own thing?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't feel safe, and I was okay with not feeling safe. I made the decision to just take the risk, which I'm a big like just do what you fear person. Like I'll do what I'm scared of all the time. So, and if I'm scared of it, it means that I have to do it. So I was like, all right, we're making this decision to get people involved in this work, and the safety will find me in the process. And it did.
Do you just like let your guard down? Were you like saying stuff to yourself to soup yourself up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I was just crying at home about it after. I'll be like, oh my God, I don't know if anybody understands me or sees the vision, et cetera, et cetera. But I would just come back to the studio the next day and the next day and just continue that process.
Right.
And before I knew it, I understood that having the collaborators a part of my work allowed me to open up and see dark parts of myself that I wasn't looking at, and allowed me to see blind spots that I was missing out on as a writer and creative.
No, it is really important. I recently, this is, related, but different category. Recently, I'm a recovering unhealthy attachment. That's what I like to say. And so I've been, rewiring my brain for a long time to try and like meet someone healthier. And I recently met this guy, he asked me out, and he proceeded from like our date, like we met on a Saturday, our first date was on a Thursday, called me twice a day from Sunday to Thursday.
Look at that. I love
no.
that.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like on the phone with my agent and I'm like, why is this guy calling me? I'm like, what are we doing? What are we going to talk about on our first date? And so, it's pure energy. This person is eager and excited.
Word.
Why am I judging that or being uncomfortable with that? So I was like, I'm going to push through it. But on the whole drive to the date, let me tell you, this was my mantra: compassion, openness, curiosity, compassion, openness, curiosity. And then when I got there, I had to like sort of be like, hey, I'm still in work mode. I need to get my head out of work mode, because I felt I still had this wall up a little bit because I was a little bit uncomfortable with being there and a little bit uncomfortable with that level of
like
calling
connection.
Me because you will not connect. There was no connection. But like ended up being no connection. But as my therapist would say, when you call that much, it's sort of accelerating something that doesn't exist. And so it felt a little bit borderline unhealthy to me. Not that I'm the queen of healthy in that department, but I've learned maybe that's a sign. But the point was I learned something out of it, which was like, after that, I actually had a good time on that date. We went on another date. He ended up not being my person, but I learned, I was like, okay, there was something about how I show up or showing up being that uncomfortable or on guard. I was able to witness things about myself. So when you talk about noticing dark things as you're recording, it probably helped evolve you as an artist and the music as well.
Literally. Exactly. That's literally what it did. And I love that kind of like parallelism between dating somebody and writing and collaborating. But it's
vulnerable. It's all vulnerable.
It's all vulnerability. But I'm a fan of my vulnerability. I'm a fan of like getting into those pockets with myself, because it allows me to grow and be a better artist. Yeah, and I would straight up also tell the other artists in the room, like, yo, I'm scared right now, but we gonna do this anyway. We're gonna get into this music, and you guys just, I want you to be open and free and write things that I wouldn't say. That was another thing that we practiced in the room. I was like, y'all say things that I would never say, please. I want to see myself say things that I have never said before.
And what was the wildest one?
Oh, can I curse on this podcast?
Duh. Duh. Of course.
So the line, like a porno dick, I'm hard as shit, I'm never soft.
Okay, we got Megan Thee Stallion in the house.
I was
And you were like,
I was like, okay, let's do it. And definitely ready for whatever the world's about to tell me when this music comes out. But I wanted that expression. I wanted to express my full self.
what did that feel like? Did you feel like yourself? Did you feel like a part of you?
I felt like I was finding that person within myself, and kind of like pulling her out.
Ooh.
The more I would like do it, the more she would like come through.
Ooh.
And so that was really exciting. I was like, I have this character in me. I know I'm not just like prim and proper all the fucking time. So
And did you like her?
I did, and she's still around. She's very much so still very in the vicinities of this new project, and she's showing up a lot. And she's still me, which is the most important part. She's still a part of me. And I think that's what the project and this time of my life is all about, like finding the oneness with all the different versions of myself.
All the parts.
Exactly. So it's been such a journey, and the music is fire and fun and all the things, and very different from what I've done before. It's not all boom bap hip hop. We're getting into a lot of electronic music, dance music. I mean, I've also did a lot of house music in the past, but this is like really out house music, like very, very different from what I've done in the past.
I love house.
I love house music. I do.
What I love about being an artist is I think sometimes people don't understand is like a lot of it is you're putting on a persona and a character, and it's a part of you. And so a lot of times people fall in love with that part. And then, which is why, they say like never meet your idols, because a lot of the people you're meeting, what you have witnessed is a part. It's not the daily sum of the parts.
Yeah, facts.
I love that piece of artistry, but I definitely find, I always say that like DJ part of me, like she's a whole other girl. Like she's like the best version of me. She's fun. She's breezy. She doesn't think too hard. Like,
right.
She's just present, enjoying the flow of life.
But
and then there's like,
that's you. That's you.
Yeah. But then there's Denise who's like, we're burning down patriarchy. I am
that's
fully awake and alive. And if you're
Right.
not reading the news at this current juncture in time, I'm not sure if we can be friends. Like there's a DJ Denise doesn't care. She's like, you don't read the news, no problem. Like DJ Denise is like, the Virgo, what is it? My ENFJ, the J is hard J. It's really amazing to explore. In some ways, obviously, it's not as official as parts work by Dr. Richard Schwartz, I believe his name is, who created the parts theory. We learn about all these different ages we were at, all the different pieces, and we try and integrate them into one. I think artistry is such a beautiful way to start that process.
Yeah,
and say, oh, this thing exists, and I'm just letting her or him have space.
Exactly. And I think that was a big part of this project too. I wanted my sensuality to have space, my sexuality to have space. Like, especially as a woman in hip hop, you're either on one side of the spectrum or the other, and we're starting to witness women be able to show all the spectrums of themselves. And I was like, that's what I want. I want to be able to show all of me. And yeah, and that's what the artistry also did. Like that time with everybody just allowed me to, okay, let's get into that bag. Let's really talk about my pussy and have fun with that and be okay with that, Yeah, and it's been a ride. It's been a joyous ride, but also I could say the truth. Like there were days where I was like, oh my God, my fans are gonna hate this. Like they're gonna be like, what the hell, Latashá, who are you now? And then I was like, well, if my fans feel that way, they're not really my fan, So
right,
we got to get real about, who you want to be your fan as well. And I think those are the people that see you for you.
Well, the work evolves as you evolve. And
exactly.
there's plenty of artists that stay stagnant and try to recreate the same thing they've done every time, and that's fine, but it also gets boring.
Hella boring.
And part of being an artist is taking risks and hoping that they work, and that's the hardest part about creativity is the idea that you're making something that you believe in a silo, that is something that you believe the world needs and is of service to the
Mm-hmm.
world, but you have no idea if it's going to connect with
Right.
one person, 5 people, 100 people, thousands of people. And it's hard when it doesn't connect with a huge amount of people to feel that you did your job. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, what I'm really trying to tell myself is that creativity is a process. It's not about outcome. We don't get
That
to
part.
decide about the outcome. That's the universe. All we can do is just do the work.
Exactly. Literally, that's all you're supposed to do is just continue to create. The quote that I love from The Artist's Way is I will take care of the quantity, you take care of the quality when you're talking about your higher source or your creator. And that I live by that at this point. At some points of my existence, I like would stop and go, stop and go. And right now, I'm in full let's go mode and be fully consistent because especially in the world we're in right now, if I could see the nasty work that is happening in the government the way it is right now, I could pull up for myself and like do all the things
Ah,
I need to do.
they've just showed us that truly anything
It's
is possible.
possible.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's roll it and play.
What do you think was the biggest thing you learned in the process of making this EP?
Oh man, I'm still in the process of it, so I'm learning still, right? Like the EP comes out in May, but the first single comes out March 5th. And what I am learning is how to tell my story in a more like fulfilling way for my spiritual self. I think
Mm,
sometimes I've told my story very like literal, and I'm like, how do I tell my story so that it's actually healing and offering
mm,
healing for myself and for other people? And so, for example, with this new song, Chaos, that's coming out March 5th, I offered a Substack on how I've been doing shadow work with the music,
mm.
you know? And that has just opened up a new realm for me. And like every song now has an attachment to some sort of healing process that I'm working through with it.
Well, can we just talk through it for a second in terms of how how is it related to shadow work? How do you do your shadow work?
Mm-hmm. So shadow work for me is like the process of looking at all those dark crevices of yourself that you don't really get to look at, right? And so that's i.e. your desires that you tuck all the way in the back, the fears you have, the jealousies, everything, and just looking at it straight through. This song is so chaotic, and that's why it's called Chaos. It's like so many things that I wouldn't say, wouldn't do, wouldn't be
Mm,
about, and letting it all release. And in that process of just letting that be out and expressing it, affirming it, continually like rewrapping it and performing it, and to me is getting into my subconscious and
mm.
working through my shadow work and allowing myself to see, like, say it out loud, you know? um in this song I'm talking about like what I want to do, the patriarchy, sex, my braggadociousness, like all types of energy is in it.
I love
And
that.
she's a character, and it's back to that persona idea. Like I built this character so I could see that person within myself, you know? And so the step by step stuff that I did was like I did a lot of meditation work when I was deciding what lyrics I wanted to put into this record. And then I would do some journaling about what those lyrics actually meant to me and what they like subliminally mean to me as
Mm.
well. And then along with that, I would do some dressing up and playing and becoming that character. Like I would literally put an outfit on that reminded me of who this girl was, and then strut
What were
and
the outfits?
they were just like hot girl outfits, you know, little boobs, little
I do know. I do
you
know. My mother
know.
calls me every other week about my Instagram. And I have to be like, I'm a woman in her 30s. I am not concerned.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I too am trying to get into her too. I love her.
Yes, love her, be about her, and so offering myself those times to be in that body. Also, a lot of the shadow work is speaking to your inner child or your
Mm.
inner adolescence or a moment in time where you didn't resolve something for yourself. And so I've dealt with a bit of trauma around sexuality and sensuality in my past life. That's what suppressed so much of me speaking on it in my music. And I took a lot of time to talk about sexuality and sensuality in this season of my life and talk about it with my partner, talk about it with friends, and be open and vocal in a way that I haven't been before. And that's some of the work that I did in the shadow work.
I also like that you talk about being braggadocious because women are often so punished for
Mm-hmm.
being vocal about their accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really moving into a place where I've realized that by being humble, there's a lot of opportunities that have flown by me because I wasn't bragging. Because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
if you just do the work, the opportunities will come, the press will
Mm-hmm.
come. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got to a place where I was like, "Mm,
Actually, no.
where is it? I don't see it." I guess I just have to really start asking really
Yeah.
direct questions like when I do a DJ gig, if there's
Mm-hmm.
press, make sure I mentioned
Yeah.
all these things that I just thought would happen naturally. And
Mm-hmm.
getting to this place where realizing it's not a bad thing or I don't have to feel uncomfortable about it
That
and really
part.
just say it from a proud place. This is the truth. It's not being braggy, it's the truth. And we should give credit where credit is due.
That part. Give us that retribution. That's what we're asking for. The retribution, the attribution, bring it forward. And yeah, I think being a rapper, naturally you have to have that braggadocious energy anyway. So it's always been with me, but in this instance of time, I'm like, oh no, I'm coming. I'm coming through because I played a lot of humble games with y'all, and I definitely missed out on a lot because of
Mm.
those humble games. And now it's like, nah, I've done a lot of work. I've done all the work, honestly. And so it's time. It's the season.
Does anyone call it like big pussy energy yet? Is BPE? Is that a
Love
thing? Should
that.
we call that a thing now?
I have a record that's in that realm, so that's really funny.
You can take the title. I don't care. You can use it. You can use it. I just am like, why have I always said like I have BDE? Like I say this about myself all the
No,
time.
no.
And I'm like, BPE, where have we
Yes,
been?
yes, exactly.
I love that. So as you get ready to release very soon around the
Mhm.
corner, is there a word, an intention we can put out into the universe on your behalf?
Oh, thank you for that. I love that question. Um, Yeah, I'm just calling for the right engagement. Like, I want my girls, my gays, to really love this record and have a
We
good
only
ass
do it for the
time.
girls and the
For the
gays.
gays, you already know. So, I want to find my girls and my gays who love this record to go off and have a great time with it. And also hope that it heals some people. I think that's important too. If it heals or offers inspiration of healing, that's what I want too. I think there's so much healing on the dance floor. I feel like there's so much, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Not to take away from essential workers, but
never,
in the
never.
times that we live in, my friend did text me and said, "You're basically an essential worker because during times of deep resistance, people need to go to the club, they need to wipe their brain so they can get
Mm-hmm.
up the next day and fight." And we have to
Exactly.
have periods of flow, periods of where the brain is off, where you are present. Music is a healing medium. And I have to say, I was like, I don't want to take away from my sister who's a nurse or all the people, the
Of
firefight people who are
course.
doing
Of
really
course.
tough work.
Of course.
But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
love that.
There is room for us too. And I think, I mean, music is medicine to me and always has been. And so I hope that it could offer that to other people as well. Yeah, and the other intention is to take me on the next level, whatever that next level is
Mm.
supposed to be. Let it come through, and I'm hoping is the level I'm asking for. But we won't go into all of the levels that I'm asking for right now.
I talk to the universe probably like every day, but
Same.
I'm a human design person and I'm a manifester, and that's like what we're supposed to do. So I'm
Love.
really just trying to employ that.
Bring
I'm
it.
like, okay, we're gonna see. And let me tell you, I get a parking spot every time.
I
It
love
does work. I'm like, help me find an easy park. Help me find an easy park. I'm like, boom. And actually, the aforementioned guy in this that was talking about, I was DJing that night. I went to the club and I was like, universe, I'm ready to date. Send someone my way. And that night,
Nice.
not the guy, but the point was, I was like, they're listening. They're
I'm
attuned.
a projector, so it's all about like offering the message. So
Yes.
I love my manifestors because y'all teach me so much
Oh, I
about
mean, I
that.
think I learn from everybody. I
Exactly.
would love to be a generator and have nonstop energy.
Oh my God.
I don't think we're in control of the reaction, but I think
Of
putting
course.
it out to the universe on your behalf, the idea that all of those aligned at your frequency or in need of your work will find your work is
Exactly.
the best intention to put out there.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we want. I'm ready for a mass, huge audience and all that stuff, but
Of
I'm
course.
also like super excited to find those girls and those gays who come to me and be like, yo, Latashá, this record is taking me out tonight. It's pre-gaming me. It's like making me go to work today. It's helping me in the gym. Like that, those messages, every time I get a DM like that, heart, you
Well,
know?
both have immense value, right? People sometimes get confused about with like wanting a big audience is there's two things that are happening, which is one, there's a large energetic exchange happening, which is a very special thing to experience,
Mm.
number one. But
Mm-hmm.
number two, when you care about sizable impact, the peer to peer stuff, those notes are just as important as the big audience. But if we really
Exactly.
want to create frequency, or if you're saying healing through your music or change and shift, like you need the larger audience size to further create that impact. There's two buckets in this artist department. There's people that
Mm-hmm.
want to be famous, and
Mm-hmm.
there's people that are doing their craft and want to use their craft to create impact.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the work that I want to do. And I want
Yeah.
ginormous impact. Like I really want to hit it,
Yeah.
but and I'm also so here for those moments where my one-to-ones hit me up and they just let me know that the
Yeah.
music meant something.
That's also what keeps you going. If you
Exactly.
don't get the exact result you want at the exact time, is you're like, okay, well, it's connecting. So I just
Mm-hmm.
have to keep going.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, with the way the algorithms are working, it's really tough for music artists a lot of times too, because I feel like the algorithms just want you to pay for ad space all the time. So,
The social media thing is really challenging, especially when that's the channels we're supposed to be relying on to,
honey.
especially when TikTok went down. It was really upsetting for me because it's not just about, do I think that TikTok is like probably a propaganda tool for China? Sure, like whatever. The point is like I'm not like down for TikTok. It's
Yeah.
really more about the idea that you had all these creators who are making money and a livable wage, and overnight that money could disappear. This thing that you've built, you have no control over the audience, which is why being an independent artist and building a community on blockchain was wise. But then
Mm-hmm.
I have to spend money to get the audience. And then it's like this whole thing where how do I actually protect what I'm doing when
Mm-hmm.
these platforms don't actually like care about me as a creator? They're
That part.
extracting from me. And so then
Mm-hmm.
where do you go and where do you build? We don't have platforms. I think there's one that's just starting to be built for music, but we don't really
Mm-hmm.
have social media platforms that care about artists. So
No.
it becomes this really horrible double bind that we're in where it's like we have to be on them because that's how you build the brand, but yet I can't rely that that is a safe place for me to sustain a career on.
You're right. I mean, it is the gateway for new fans and new people to find you, right? Because so many people are there. The biggest issue that I was facing on blockchain and the platforms that are built on blockchain is that the audience wasn't there. It was very
Right.
speculative and it was like, one bubble of audience. And I'm like, oh no, we have to go outside. We have to meet more and connect with more people. And sadly enough, a lot of them are on Instagram, a lot of them are on TikTok and Twitter. And so, how do we go beyond is where I'm
Yeah.
at right now.
I'm with you. I think that's the next phase because certainly with the current administration, I'm only on Instagram and TikTok, but I got rid of Facebook a long time ago. And as soon as Elon Musk bought X, I said goodbye.
I
S-
appreciate that.
Day one, honey. But the point is, like right now, I don't particularly want to be on Instagram. And I got off Instagram probably the week of the inauguration because I was just like, I need a break. It's overwhelming. And also, I'm boycotting. Now, let's just say 5 days into my week long ban to myself, I go on Instagram and I check, and there was a business inquiry.
Exactly.
And I sat there and I was like, oh my goodness, if I had not broken my own personal ban, I would have missed a business opportunity. And that's the depth that these platforms have integrated themselves into our lives in a way that I can't also hinder my own financial upside because we live in capitalism. I would love to. I would prefer not to like be doing this, but we live in a world, unfortunately, where that's the truth. I can't do that. But then unless there's a great, like a mass
shift.
Like or a mass excursion. What do you call it? Like
everybody exits.
Extinction. Yeah. From these platforms, they're just going to keep making more money and I'm losing out. Wealth distribution is a good thing and taking from these guys is also a good thing. But I always struggle with where is my moral line on some of these things. And I'm very clear I'm not shopping at Whole Foods anymore. I'll tell you my 3 conflicts still. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and I have to cut Amazon Prime.
Yes, we all have to cut Amazon Prime. That's coming for me too. And yeah, it's tough because there are so many benefits, right? And there are so many things that we gain out of utilizing these tools, but at the same time, they also are really extracting from us constantly, right? For music artists, for example, just like what we have to deal with, ad space revenue for our music probably costs us about like $500 to $2,000 a record, and even more so if you're a huger artist. This is like talking very independent by yourself kind of artist. You're probably spending about $500 to $2,000 to get your music further. I put up a pretty picture on my Instagram that's gonna do very well. I put up a new song that's coming out. Until I put ad stuff onto it, like ad space, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move. And that's very interesting how they are controlling how the music artist moves. And I mean, that's on every platform for music. Spotify does this kind of similar thing.
Yep.
Apple Music has its own versions. Like every Apple Music is like the only one that actually doesn't have too much of that. But Spotify, if you trying to get on a good playlist, you're probably gonna have to pay for it. You know, you have to pay for every part of getting to people, and all you're trying to do is get to people. You know, so need new models.
Well, this is what bothers me. In capitalism, we have like this pay to play system, and we're sitting in a time of administration where we're reaping the repercussions of that mindset. And I public speak at conferences, and I recently have been signing to more bureaus, and I had this one bureau reach out and they were like, hey, we are very discerning about who's on our roster. We see that you reached out to us in the past. We'd love to have you on the roster, but you have to go through a $12,000 coaching program. And I was like, and if I go through that program, am I guaranteed to be on the roster? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, so you're not discerning.
No.
You're literally a pay to play system. And I said, I get it if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 because their company will pay for that. But I'm an artist. I'm trying to build my speaking profile. And I told him, I said, you can't then sit here and be upset about oligarchy when you're doing the same thing within your own company. And we have to start with our little corner and our little business to create the change we want to see. It's called a sliding scale, my friend. Go charge the billionaires and the CEOs that level of money. And if you really believe that someone would be a great speaker that you will then make money off of, because let's just say, I'm not on this roster and they're not benefiting from me being on that roster. If you believe you can sell me into the market and make money off me, then invest in me and then have that recoup. And so obviously that probably wasn't the phone call this guy wanted to have, but for me, it's indicative. But I just can't. In the times we live in, it feels too urgent and feels too crazy to condone that type of behavior anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just in a place where if you want to live in a free market where the best ideas win and we live in a meritocracy, then you have to start in your own house.
That part.
And we're missing out on so many amazing musicians, artists, creators, business leaders because we are creating these pay to play systems, or the people that have money can continue to make because it
Exactly.
costs money to make.
Exactly. And that's in every front, honey. It's very similar in blockchain too. They have a lot of that going on as well in the blockchain. I mean, even more so probably because the people that have money can do the things
Oh
on
yeah.
blockchain, you know? And so we're witnessing that at every front. And so it is about dispersing the funds in different places so that we could actually see some change happen. And I think there are a few people out there really about that life. I will say I'm really excited about my executive producers, CY Lee, because he shows up in that way. He shows up for not just me. I think he has like 40 artists and different
Wow.
like projects that he's working on where he's dispersing his funds into different corners. His history and background is like he worked in tech since the beginning, like Microsoft early days, and made a lot of generational wealth out of that. And then he wanted to show up for artists and creatives in that way. But he wants to show up for artists and creatives utilizing tech and like playing the game differently. And that's what we need. We need more people like that, more
Yeah.
patrons, more folks that are going to show up as angel investors in that right, and really show up to change how and where the money is going. You know,
And also understand that the blueprints of the future are things that have not been done
that
before.
part, that
So
part.
people that are funding that level of pioneering, let's try different models and let's
Mm-hmm.
experiment and have that not be something in which I'm going to be upset if it doesn't work, is part of
Mm-hmm.
what's needed, because we have to play with stuff as we're hitting this weird critical time in late stage capitalism
Exactly.
where,
It's all
yeah, we're all
gonna
slowly
break.
dying.
Well, I don't think we're dying. I think some other stuff is dying, but that's my
Well, I think that
opinion.
stuff is dying, but I also think the air is poisoning us. And I think that,
Oh my God, Denise, come on, my
the food is
girl.
poison. I'm like, we're just,
You're protected. You're taken care of. Just stay in
no,
your
no.
spiritual realms and everything will be okay. But no, I hear you. I do respect that idea. I don't know. A lot of shit is fucked up, obviously, but I also feel like a lot of wins are coming through because of all
Oh,
that
yeah.
fucked up stuff.
That's
So
what's so crazy is I am so realistic about life. And what has been so bizarre is since that Cheeto took office,
you're the
I have,
second person in my day that called him a Cheeto.
well, I'm not
But
going to name him because he
of
doesn't
course,
deserve that
don't
kind of
even.
power or
Don't
privilege.
even.
But I have never felt more alive.
Hell yeah, right? Me too.
And
That's
I'm
what I've
like,
been feeling too.
and I think that's a good thing, because if we were really destined for doom, I would feel
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're on the brink of a really exciting time that bends towards justice.
Exactly. I think we already are on the win. You know what I mean? We just have to do the work. That's all it is.
We have to keep fighting and calling our reps every day and railing.
Exactly,
But
exactly, and doing the work. That's the work.
yeah,
You know, and so I am. I don't want to say I'm optimistic, but I'm here for it. I'm ready for it, and I'm gonna do my part with my art, and I'm gonna show up for other artists. And art to me is really crucial in this time. So
it's how to be of service. It's what people need. And we
mm-hmm.
have really important things to say. That's
Exactly.
part of why this podcast is happening
I'm
now.
so happy. I'm so proud of you and so happy for it, yo. Like straight up.
It's really important to be centering certain voices right now. And I don't think we have the luxury of being quiet, or at least I
Mm-hmm.
don't. And so my version of it is, let me create a space where we can talk about magical thinking and different ways of doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully one of those ideas plants seeds in people and things start to bloom.
I love the concept of magical thinking because sometimes it's not thought of as magical thinking, especially how people define what I do. Like they just put it in a bucket of tech or a bucket of music, and I'm like, no, it's beyond that. Like what I care about and what a lot of us care about is like innovation and how to, you know, deconstruct and reconstruct the models that we've been in. And I think that's magical thinking. That's thinking beyond what we've already seen, and or taking the things that we've seen, collaging it into something new.
Yeah.
That's what magical thinking is. And I think I love that statement. I love that way of thinking of it, for sure.
That's where we have to be right now, because
Yeah.
it's clear the stuff that we've tried status quo doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
We have to be really radical and not afraid to say something and see if it's a good idea and explore it. And that's just sort of where I'm at, which is looking at all the different possibilities, from like a
Facts.
political scape, from an artist scape, from a creator stake, and even just this podcast. I'm bringing it back. It's a play space right now. I don't exactly know how it's going to evolve, what it's going to look like. I'm bringing the people that I think are pioneering new categories to the table, or new ways of thinking, and we're just going to hold that space and
Yeah.
let it tell us what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that brings me so much joy to see more people doing that work, because that's why I got into blockchain in the first place and tech in the first place, was because I wanted to create new spaces for people to reimagine their existence and how they can
Mm,
move forward in their lives. For me, I've always played with manifesting and always played with like different kind of scriptings and things like that to bring forward different lives for me and timelines, and did a lot of timeline jumping in my journey. When I got
how
in
would you explain timeline jumping to someone who's like, I have no idea what she's talking about?
Oh, yeah. So timeline jumping to me, okay, how I think of it is that everybody's on different timelines. Our lives are all in different timelines, and you could be living on, you could have several different timelines in your life span, right? You have lots of different dimensions that you could be living in dependent on your decisions. There's this Spirit Bashar. There's this guy named Bashar on YouTube that talks a lot about timeline jumping, if anybody's interested in going deeper diving into it. But basically, what Bashar says is that every decision you make or every way of moving can take you into a specific kind of timeline in your life. But you could also be super intentional about the timeline that you want to be in. It's literally like having a timeline on your Twitter and deciding to delete it and make a whole new
Yeah,
timeline
yeah.
situation.
That's a great way of putting it.
Exactly. And so, but it's in real time and it's in your life. So for me, I had a really rough upbringing. And when I first was getting into music, a lot of it was rejected by my family and then outside, et cetera, et cetera. And I got into a really deep, dark time of my life where I was just super depressed, almost moved into, suicidal
Mm.
inclinations. And a lot was just going on in my time. And I remember getting The Secret was the first book, which I was like, I don't know how I feel about The Secret now, but back in the day, it meant a lot to me. And then I started also listening to like Ask and It's Given. And then I started reading into like Joe Dispenza and a bunch of other people and timeline jumping. Oh, and then there was this woman named Miriam Hasna that I found on Instagram. She is incredible. To me, she's a wizard, absolutely a wizard. So she talked about timeline jumping in her courses. She has a mystery school that she teaches
Mm.
things. And she talked about timeline jumping and how through scripting and through practices of affirmation and what was the last practice? And then pulling yourself into different vibrations, so higher vibrations, et
Yep.
cetera, you
Yep.
could move yourself into a different life timeline. And so at that time, I was like probably the brokest I've ever been and started implementing those practices. I started scripting, going outside a lot, partying, trying
Yeah.
to just keep my vibrations
Frequency
up.
high.
And then one day, I just started putting like quotes of positive affirmations all over my room. Like my room was just like every turn there was like an affirmation. And I remember scripting that I wanted to find an angel investor and wanted to move out of the crib that I was living in and live in a crib with musicians and
Mm.
artists. And I wrote that for, I want to say, 6 months. And then one day, some woman came onto my DMs and was like, yo, I love your music. Why aren't you more famous? Why aren't you this and that? We just started chopping it up. And she was like, look, I want to really support you. how can I be of support to you? And she gave me like 15K, 10K to get out of my crib
Wow.
and leave my job. But she said I had to promise her that I would be an independent artist for as long as I could be. So
Amazing.
I did that. And then I ended up finding a crib in Bed-Stuy to stay with four other women or three other women. And when I got to the house, I found out that they were all musicians. And I also had written in my script, because something that you have to do when you're scripting is write very, very detailed,
Very
like
clear.
specific things that you want. And so I wrote that I wanted Christmas lights all over this house. Like I wanted the whole house to be embedded with Christmas lights everywhere and just feels magical when I walk in the house. So one night I went out, I partied, I did my thing. Then I came back to the house and there was Christmas lights just all over the crib. And I just started crying
Of course.
hysterically
Yeah.
because I, at that moment, realized that I had timeline jumped. Like I moved into a different type of lifestyle that I wanted to move into.
I love
Yeah.
that story.
Thank you. But yeah, there's a lot of power in scripting and writing and telling and like
Well, it's two things.
affirming.
It's powerful because you're telling yourself, but the reality is what you're doing is you're rewiring your brain.
Of course, exactly.
And when you are congruent in the thing from mind, body, soul, you face less resistance in what you're trying to manifest.
Exactly. Especially when you feel it in the body, right? Like it's all about
Mhm.
feeling that thing in your body.
Feeling the thing, and then
Mhm.
it can happen, but you have to be congruent. And so part of that
Exactly.
practice, I have a daily affirmation that's in my calendar on my phone. So every day I look at it, I read it out loud. And it's a simple thing that I've been struggling with, which was last year was a very financially hard year for me. And so I've just been putting this very clear affirmation in. And it's been just amazing to see A, it change, and B, I say things now and I'm far more congruent when I say them. They're in alignment. There is no internal resistance. So it's one of those things where I always say I get everything that I want. It's just never on my timeline.
Is that the thing you're saying now, or that's
Oh,
what
no,
you?
no. That's
Oh,
what I
okay.
know.
Um.
And no, what I'm saying now is about being resourced and supported and lucky. I've been plenty resourced. My needs are met. But the point is, I'm trying to channel a different flow of resourcing
That. Mm-hmm.
to move into this next phase of what I'm trying to do, which is not just resource myself, but resource others, quite like many of your
Yes.
patrons have resourced you.
Exactly. I think, but you know what's funny? I had asked for this type of resourcing for a very long time in my journey and kept asking for it. And I'm very grateful for this form of resourcing and hope that it continues to happen in my journey. But I also want to now find my own form of resourcing
Yes.
through like me, like fully channeling and direct to consumer resourcing that just
Yep.
is as high of a level as what my executive producer is giving me. I could do that too, you know? And finding that sustainable system that could do that for me is what I'm calling on now. So that's like the next level of it. So
It'll happen.
yeah.
What people really don't understand about this stage of the creative process is that I've been a DJ for 15 years and it pays now a big portion of my bills. It doesn't pay all my bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have to take some odd production jobs here and there to continue to do my creative path.
Mm-hmm.
In a year, probably not. But the point
Mm-hmm.
is, I want to have that transparency because I think we see all these people on social media and they think it's just, oh, it's like, no, the creative path is hard. It takes a
It's
lot of
very hard.
courage and it takes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of bravery to continue to do the thing, believing that one day this creative thing will fully resource you. Because we don't
Exactly.
live in a culture that prioritizes the arts and creativity as a
Right.
means to make money until you really hit it.
Exactly. And then there's no real support for you to hit it. You have to do it yourself every single day. That's like the hardest part too. You were talking about the hardest parts of being on this journey is the solitude that you feel and the alone work that you have to deal with every time you're on it, and wanting people to engage and wanting people to be there, but there's going to be parts of the journey where nobody's there. Those parts have probably been like the toughest moments for me, having to face myself. But I also know that those moments were for me to face myself and were for me to ask the questions of what I actually am looking for and needing. There's so many parts of the creative journey, but yeah. I don't know where I fell into that little pocket, but
No, I'm with you. I'm just wondering, what is your best way to face yourself?
Mm, I think like okay, for example, today literally I woke up really like just annoyed with how IG has been working because I've been really consistent on my release practice right now for this upcoming single, and I'm still not seeing like the results that I want to see if they're telling me consistency is key, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what the hell? I felt like I was gonna start getting emotional about it and pissed off about it. And instead, I just talked to myself and say, okay, what are you actually looking for? What do you really, really need? I feel like I just need more community and people that are dealing with the similar thing for us to work together and figure out some solutions for this. Instead of being pissed off and crying and doing all the things I could do, I just went on social and said, yo, I'm gonna start a community group for artists that need support and engagement, and we just work together and figure out how we could support each other. And it's going to be a small group. I don't want a whole lot of people in it, but just enough people for us to be like, all right, cool, let's share each other's posts, like on each other's posts, save each other's posts so that the algorithm could start seeing that work happen.
Mm.
And when I did that, I felt so much better. Like saying it
Yeah.
out loud, putting it out there and releasing it just made me feel so much better about it because I felt like I was putting an action towards the thing that I'm looking for, you know?
But
And
also knowing that you're not alone.
exactly. And knowing I'm not alone in it also supported me. And at first, no one responded. And then I got a few responses later on in the day. And I've been like, oh, that's amazing. That's what I needed. Sometimes it's just that. It's just actually taking the action towards the thing you need. And how many times have we just not taken the action toward the thing that we
No,
actually
the small
need?
steps are the big step. We always have everything we need. And I'm guilty of this sometimes too, where I'm like, oh, there was this obvious step that I just sort of missed. And the small steps build the big thing. And
Missed or just didn't even want to do, right? Because sometimes I
yeah,
face that too, where I'm like, I don't want to do this thing. But then I realize, oh, if I just would have done that thing a long time ago, I would have been fine.
that's why healing and life are not linear journeys, because we get to
Say
revisit things and say, oh, last time I wouldn't have done this, but
it.
this time.
This time I'm pulling
This
up.
time I learned. I learned. I learned. Look at me now. I'm always like, oh, okay, this is happening again for me to see how I react this time.
Right. Exactly. I'm learning. I'm learning. Anytime I have a loop now, I'm like, oh, okay, I heard you. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I say, gonna pass
Gotcha.
this test.
This time I got it. I
Not
got it.
failing it. Learning
Not
from last time.
literally that. Literally.
I so appreciate you taking the time to
Of
have this
course,
conversation with
Denise.
me. I am just so grateful for the work you do,
Thank you,
how
Denise.
you move as a human being.
Thank you.
So, for the people that don't know Latashá personally, her music is amazing, but she is an amazing person.
Ah, thank you.
And we don't get to see a lot of people who are as integrated as she. And so, it's a gift.
Denise, you're an amazing person. I'm so, so grateful to be here with you always. And every time we chat, I just feel like I'm just fed, and it's just like a beautiful, beautiful like dinner together of chatting. So
This was a feast. We ate, bitch. This
we
was a
just ate.
feast.
We just ate. Well, I'm so grateful for you, girl. Thank you
Oh,
so
tell
much.
them where they can find you just in case they don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
We'll put
yeah,
it we'll put
yeah.
it in the show credits, but just so
You can find me on all socials as at Call Me Latashá, and then my website is callmelatasha.com. I have a lot of new music coming out, so on Spotify and all
March
the
5th.
platforms. Hello. On those platforms, it's Latashá, Latasha, an accent on the last A. Yeah, and I'm out here, so holla at me.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Boulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.